George Brumder was born in 1839 in Germany and moved to Milwaukee in 1857. He was one man in a city full of enterprising immigrants like himself. He wanted to be an influence, and he did. When George Brumder began publishing in German, he soon rose to the top of Milwaukee's publishing world. His publications, notably the renowned German weekly Germania, helped him become one of the wealthiest German Americans in the country. These journals found their way to German Americans all around the country, providing them a feeling of home, no matter where they were. With his rising riches and an adult son, George Brumder Jr., Mr. Brumder decided to build the Brumder Mansion for his son in 1910. It was a 4-story mansion with almost 8,000 square feet of living area. It has hand-carved fireplaces, and one of the more prominent aspects was the incorporation of a ballroom on the basement level with its own entrance, as opposed to the normal practice of the era, which was to situate them on one of the upper floors. When it was all said and done, the total cost was $25,000. Unfortunately, Mr. Brumder died in May of 1910, before the home he had commissioned for his son could be completed. Beginning in 1910, George Jr., his wife Thekla, and their 3 children, Edward, George, and Henriette, resided there. Henrietta, George Jr.'s mother, and Emma, George Jr.'s sister, moved in with George and the family. After Henrietta died in the early 1920s, the Brumder family had to sell their wonderful property after 12 years of enjoyment. George and Thekla planned to buy another property on Milwaukee's Lakeside Drive, but they couldn't afford both. As a result, George began looking for a reputable buyer who would look after his home. Sam Pick and his brother Ed bought the house from the Pick family in 1927. Sam Pick resided there with his wife Laura Miller, and their son Robert. This transition of ownership might have been routine, if Sam Pick had been an ordinary individual, but the Pick brothers had a reputation. Both brothers were suspected of having links to Al Capone, and of being active in the illegal alcohol trade during the Prohibition years. Sam already owned a nightclub named Club Madrid, which Capone allegedly had him open as an outlet for his illegal alcohol. The Brumder Mansion, on the other hand, had a shady reputation. Gambling was also rumored to have taken place in the downstairs speakeasy of the mansion. After Prohibition was repealed, and Al Capone was imprisoned, Sam ran into financial difficulties, fell behind on his mortgage payments, and nearly lost the Club Madrid. However, he was able to overcome this issue. Sam was also obliged to pay music royalties for the songs the singers sung on stage at Club Madrid in the mid-1930s. He first resisted, but once collectors began removing tables from Club Madrid, he caved in and paid the debt. The Brumder Mansion was sold by Sam and Ed Pick to obtain finances to keep Club Madrid afloat. Before doing so, the Chicago mobsters most likely had the secret basement tunnel covered with cement. The Pick brothers' gambling business was uncovered at Club Madrid later in the 1930s, and Sam and his brother were arrested by policemen who were no longer prepared to be on the take. Sam and Ed were able to locate a judge who simply fined them $1,000 and did not sentence them to prison. In the late 1930s, Sam was shot and injured, but he survived the assassination attempt. In the 1950s, however, when a stick of dynamite was thrown into his beloved Club Madrid, most likely because he refused to pay protection money, Sam was prompted to return to Michigan, frightened and grieving the loss of his pride and joy. After the Picks departed the house, the property was briefly rented by a group of attorneys, but it was later purchased by a couple who used it as a boarding house for a local corporation, Alice Chalmers. Our Saints Lutheran Church purchased the historic mansion estate, located next to Brumder Mansion, as well as Brumder Mansion itself, and subsequently a block of 31st Street residences, in 1948 for the future location of their Metropolitan Cathedral. In 1954, Our Savior's Lutheran Church opened its doors in its freshly constructed cathedral. The church utilized Brumder Mansion as a parsonage, and for church events because it was only 2 doors down. On the second floor, a psychedelic youth chapel was built. During the nighttime hours, the recreation area was changed into a Christian coffee house, known as the Catacombs, complete with live music as part of the church's outreach program. While the Brumder Mansion was safeguarded and shielded by Our Savior's Church for as long as they possessed the property, Concordia University, a college in the area, seen many of the other older properties in the historic Concordia district that had been neglected. The plan was to demolish the houses and replace them with new college buildings in the future. When the residents of the area and the city learned about it, they organized a legal battle and were able to stop them. The city of Milwaukee recognized the historic Concordia district to be the official bed and breakfast district to encourage people to settle in, allowing residents to put their old homes to work and earn money. Carol and Bob Hiersky purchased and salvaged the Brumder home for $75,000 in 1996, with the purpose of rehabilitating the mansion, which had likewise fallen into ruin, and returning it to its former grandeur. They also opened Sam's Speakeasy and the Cornerstone Theater in the Brumder's former recreation room. It had a stage, risers, and a sound booth, and it was a 75-seat theater. The performers utilized the basement rooms as dressing rooms. They also hosted special events, such as Dinner with Charles Dickens during the Christmas season, and the annual Halloween house attraction. While Carol Hiersky was the first to publicly report paranormal experiences in the mansion, the spirits discovered there have had some connection to the mansion for many years, according to some well-respected mediums who have come to visit. Brumder Mansion, backed up by some hard evidence captured by reliable paranormal investigators as early as 2005. A dozen distinct paranormal organizations of all sizes have uncovered some incredible hard evidence around the estate, as well as personal encounters. In the Gold Suite, Mrs. Hiersky had many encounters with a feminine entity. She was sleeping in the Gold Suite with her dog one night, when she heard a person yell at her to get the dog out of the bed. She further claims that while no one was present, the mirror in the same room's bathroom was yanked off its hook and thrown into the bathtub, shattering it, and that she also noticed drops of fresh blood in the tub basin when no one was in the room. She was terrified, and assumed there was a body upstairs, and the blood was flowing from the ceiling, but there was no explanation. Strange things have happened to several visitors and paranormal investigators in the same suite. Those who remain in the room have had vivid nightmares, frequently involving a stern woman. A psychic who came to the mansion claimed to have been visited by the ghost of a woman whose real name was Susan, but they dubbed her Aunt Pussy. Seriously, they called her Aunt Pussy. The spirit told the psychic that she didn't like the posh new decor, and that no pets were allowed to remain in the Gold Suite. It is reported that when the dogs were removed from the room, the spirit became peaceful. Some of the ghosts believed to haunt the mansion are Sam and Ed Pick, Evelyn, and Sarah. Many of the spirits are thought to be from the period when the mob ran it. The club's enforcer Joe found one Italian gambler who tried to cheat by not paying, and shot him in the coal chamber, which is now a theatrical dressing room, and he has been observed by several witnesses haunting that area. Employees that were considered a liability to the organization were dealt with, and Caroline is thought to have gotten into trouble with the mob, and was slain as well. However, it's conceivable she died of disease. It is believed at least 2 members of Sam Pick's team were slain by Chicago mob gunmen, who believed they knew too much. Joe the enforcer, and Mike the backup muscle, were slain because they knew too much about the group. Joe was killed in front of the pub after being shot on the stairwell. Mike is believed to have been stabbed near the secret tunnel. Another ghost seen at the Brumder is that of a small child, however it is uncertain if they are male or female. It is usually known to haunt the 3rd level, particularly in the Marion Suite. The similar presence has been detected on the 2nd level, near Emma's room on occasion. "Don't leave, help me," a small child is said to have said, according to one witness. Guests have reported hearing someone jump on the bed or a playful and mischievous ghost haunting the room on occasion. Another is Evelyn, who is a 30-year-old lady who was the wife of a previous Brumder owner, Ed Pick's wife, presumably. When she isn't aiding the living, she is characterized as a peaceful, sensitive, happy, but also sad person, who prefers sitting at the windows, staring out at the street below. She enjoys the Gyneth Suite, as well as the Marion and Gold rooms, as well as exploring the entire estate. In March of 2010, a member of the staff saw a misty and smoky presence over the bed in the Gyneth room, that lasted for about a minute before dissipating. She has a special place for the elderly and those who have physical limitations or illnesses. One night she came up to the Marion suite after a male guest felt ill in the Gold Suite bathroom. The woman was awakened, and saw a foggy apparition materialize by the chandelier, and she addressed the woman by her name, Julie. Caroline's mother, Elizabeth, is an elderly Southern lady who enjoys sitting in the library. She likes listening to religious music, watching religious television, and studying the Bible. She initially appeared in front of psychic medium Lori Mann in the kitchen and office area, where she introduced herself. Her inviting energy surrounds the foyer and second level, and she has a relaxing and pleasant presence. She enjoys sitting in the library and the office, and she has visited every room in the home. She is said to have previously advised paranormal investigators to leave during an inquiry. There are many other stories associated with this house, too many for just one video. It has been observed that between August and December appears to be the most physically busy period of the year for the paranormal, yet certain spirits seem to be active all year. So what do you think of the Brumder Mansion? Let us know in the comments below. Also, if you have any ideals for future stories, let us know also. And as always, please like and subscribe.